here with hysong.grows, and I thought y'all are probably a little tired of watching the flood recovery and the mucking. So I thought today we'd do something a little bit different. Today we're going to make my goat milk soap. Alright, it's been a while since I used my little scale, so I am going to double check that it is still accurate. Because especially if the battery starts to get low, it'll get wonky. So I have this little weight, and it actually surprised me because I took it to the post office and had them weigh it on their scale, and it weighed exactly a pound. And so that's what I used to check my scale, and that's reading exactly 1 pound. So that's awesome. My scale is good. I know the lighting in here is really crummy, but we're going to fix that in the future. But right now I just deal with it. I'll get my headlamp if I have to. It's really hard for me to find places that the camera's not like cutting off the top of my head and stuff. Okay, this is chunks of frozen milk, and we need 2 pounds, 2.7 ounces. Turn my scale where I can see it better. I've zeroed it out for this container, and of course some of my chunks have stuck together, so we're going to go whack it on the floor. Okay, so we want 2 pounds and 2.7 ounces of frozen goat milk. Oops. Y'all are trying to fall down on me. Maybe? I don't know. We gotta find a better spot for you. Okay. 2.27. And now we're gonna put some frozen milk into our Pyrex mixing bowl. And the rest of this will go back in the freezer for right now. I'm going to measure out my lye. I'm going to zero out my scale. Actually, I need to take this lid off. So, this is just an old yogurt container, okay, labeled. Because, oh, I don't know if it shows up. You see that moisture that's collected inside the lye container? I mean, so we're going to throw this away. And that's why I use disposable top containers for measuring the lye, because it will absorb moisture from the air, and then we get too much moisture in there and it will start reacting and heating up. So this way, I can just put the lid on it, I can throw it away, and I don't have to worry about any melting or contamination or anything like that. We'll just get a new container. Okay, so I live by myself. I do not have any indoor pets. I don't have small children here regularly. So I do not have to worry about somebody that's not knowledgeable having access to things like lye. Lye can be very dangerous, and it's not good to breathe lye fumes or anything. You will notice I'm not using anything on my hands right now, because for this first part of my process, I can be pretty neat, and I don't normally get anything on me that will burn. So I am using Crafter's Choice sodium hydroxide. Kind of cracks me up. I had a lady one day at the farmer's market read my ingredient label, and on my label I just listed as lye. Okay. For space reasons, because spelling out sodium hydroxide and all the other things takes up a lot of space. And she was really disgusted that there's lye in it. And I was like, well, honey, you can't make soap without lye. You know, and I thought, well, if I wrote sodium hydroxide, would you have a clue what it was? Most people wouldn't. So anyway, double check our amounts. I need 13 ounces of lye. That was only like 3.5. So, we got to open another bottle. I used to use the lye from the store. When I first started making soap, I lived in Texas. And I could buy Red Devil lye in any grocery store. And there was actually a soap recipe on the back of the bottle. Oh, I'm going to have issues getting it open. Hang on. Okay, and of course my dang scale. Remember, it was away. Okay, we had 3.5 ounces, so we need 9.5, right? Because that'd be 10 and 3. Okay. I don't math good in my head, guys, but I'm pretty sure we just need 9.5 more. Okay. Because my scale turned off while I was trying to get the can open. Is that right, though? I better check my math. Okay, yeah, I checked it with the calculator, and 9.5 was right, so that would make our 13 ounces. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of lye on top of the frozen milk I put in my mixer bowl. And I want to put the lid back on the lye because we don't want this humid air getting in there and making it wet. Now the next step is going to be measuring out the fats, which our first one up is lard. Alrighty, so our next ingredient is lard, and we need 2 pounds, 7.5 ounces. Again, I'm using a yogurt container. I have it labeled as for the oils, and this way, if it starts getting real grody, I can just toss it and get a clean one. I don't have to wash all this stuff in between everything, because especially when you're making a lot of stuff all the time, that washing up can slow me way down. Because all that washing up slows me way down. I already have to wash this big pot, the soap molds, the mixing measuring cup, spatulas, the stick blender, and all of those things. And they cannot be washed with any of the regular dishes or milk things or anything. So it's a whole new batch of water and a whole different stuff. So this is one thing less to wash. Anyway, we're going to scoop up a bunch of lye. That container will not hold the whole amount. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it a pound at a time. I have a big giant like 30-pound or 35-pound box of lard down here on the floor. And that's only a 1/2 pound. So I'll be back when I get this all done. Alrighty. Next up is coconut oil. And we need 1 pound, 13.8 ounces. Now, if I was smart and thinking ahead, I could have set the jar in a bowl of hot water and it would have melted and it'd been easier. But instead, of course, I'll just struggle along digging cold coconut oil out of the jar. That's okay. It's not too bad today. Not like on days when the house is like almost freezing. All right. Oh, that was not very much. And I'm going to have to, okay, I've got some more jars of coconut over there. Not as big, but anyway, I'll be back. Alrighty. Got the tallow and the coconut oil in the pot. Now we're going to measure out 3.6 ounces of beeswax. I would love to find a local beekeeper that wants to fool with saving their wax. The two that I know of, it's like too much work for them, and they just let the bees keep the wax. So I order it from my soap making supplier. Now, what did I say? 3.6 ounces. The beeswax helps make the bars a little bit harder. Come on. There we go. So, looks like I better order some more beeswax. Okay. In the pot. Get all the bits out, including the couple bits that fell on the scale. Okay. So we're going to go take this and set it on the burner on low while we do a couple of other things. Going to check the milk and lime mixture. You can see that the milk is starting to melt a little bit. And so we're just going to start stirring the lye into it. The trick here is to keep the lye from heating the milk up and scorching it. I'm not always the best at that. It doesn't really hurt the soap, but it will make it a darker color if it scorches a little bit. It's still good soap. It's just not as pretty as I would like it to be. So we try really hard to keep this mixture cold. I have 2 more fats that we're going to add to the soap. And one is olive oil. Let's see, 10 ounces of olive oil. And 9 ounces. I'm going to do 9 ounces of olive oil. And what I'll do is I will wait till the solid fats are melted, and then I will pour these oils in, because they don't need to be really heated up. And we don't want the fats to be hot when we mix it with the lye. So, almost. 7. Come on. There we go. 9 ounces. Then I'm going to clear my scale. And we're going to add 9.3 ounces of castor oil. This is part of what makes the bars suds really good. Okay, 9.3. All right. And then I'm just going to put the lid on the container, and it's just going to sit around and wait until our other fats are all melted. Oh my gosh, guys. I'm like out of a whole bunch of stuff. Like, I was going to make my plain oatmeal soup this morning. I do not have enough oatmeal. Now, if I had known that before I started, I could just make a half a batch, and that would help get me by for a bit. But, and then I was going to make lavender, because lavender is one of my most popular soaps. I don't have any lavender essential oil that I can find. So then I was going to make something else. Didn't have enough of that. But one of my other #1 popular soaps is Cedar and Sage. So we're gonna do that. And again, I'm using a recycled yogurt container. I write the name of the scent on top. So if they get grody or anything, I can just toss them. Because otherwise, there's little bits of essential oil that kind of get stuck in the container. And then you kind of lose, you know, it's only 1/10 of an ounce at a time. But still, that's 1/10 of an ounce at a time, right? And over a lot of batches, that adds up. Plus, it's a lot of effort to get those oils and things even out of a glass or ceramic container. So this just makes my life easier. And right now I'm all about making life a lot easier. Okay. Cedar and Sage, 5.2 ounces for this batch of soap. I guess you could see what I'm doing, maybe. Shit. Who knows? I'm the lousiest photographer in the world here. Okay, 5.2 ounces. And these essential oils and fragrance oils are not cheap. If I have to, you know, if the prices keep going up, I will have to raise my price on a bar of soap next year. Okay. 4, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, 5.2. 1, 2. Alrighty. And we're just going to set that aside because we don't need it till the very end of the process. We're going to go check our fats that are melting. Okay. It is starting to melt nice. We'll wait till it is all completely, totally melted. And then we'll turn the heat off and pour in the oils. So, now we'll go check the milk and lye. Okay. So, I am just very carefully stirring. We don't get too exciting or too forceful or rambunctious here, because the lye will burn you if it splashes on your skin. So I'm just real slow and real careful, trying to make sure we don't splash or plop anything around. If I can flip that over real gently, that'll be all right. There we go. And there are still some little bits of lye flakes in the bottom. Can you kind of see that there? So we'll wait till that's pretty well melted before we add more lye and more milk. Now I can kind of go on to the next thing around here, but I think I'm going to just take 5 minutes and kind of tidy my table up. It's kind of a mess, as you can see. Okay, I have added another chunk of frozen milk and sprinkled in some more lye. I will tell you, this is not the only way to make goat milk soap. It is the way I learned when I started. And I didn't know there was any other way until I had been doing it for a while. And so the other way is that you mix your lye with just a little water and you let it get hot and cool off, and then you pour your milk in with your fat. And the first time I saw somebody do that, I thought, You cheaters. Because they were done in a few minutes. This will take a lot of the day of coming back and forth, adding milk and lye. But this is the way I learned. This is the soap I started out selling. I am not changing it because my customers love my soap and they come back time and time again for more. And they come and they buy it for gifts to give to their friends and relatives. And people, I have quite a few customers that have skin issues, eczema and psoriasis and things like that. And they have all told me that they love the soap because it doesn't break them out. And it's been real helpful to them with their skin issues. So I'm not changing a thing. Okay, all melted. Time to add the oils. I'll scrape that up, give it a stir, and then this can just sit and cool off till the milk and lye mix is ready. Okay, the last of the lye is in. You see some chunks there. We gotta make sure it all gets dissolved. I'm gonna put in the last of the milk, and there's a little lull in the rain, so I am going to take off and go to the store while it's not bad. Alrighty, been to the food store, been to the grocery store, unloaded part of the stuff out of the car. It was kind of sunny for a while, and now the clouds are coming back in. Gonna be time to go feed and water everybody here in a little bit, so I'm gonna try and get this batch of soap finished up. This one is gonna be cedar and sage, so I have used my stick blender just to whisk up the fats because they were trying to get a little solid. The milk and lye is good. I'm not feeling any lumps of lye down in the bottom of the thing. There are lumps on the top, but I am pretty sure that those are fat. Yeah, they just smash really easily against the glass. So that's just butter fat separating out of the milk and trying to become soap all by itself. So, I don't have a way really to show you down inside the pot while I'm doing this, but I'm going to pour this mix into the fat, and then I'm going to stick blend it. And just trying to make sure that there's no solid lumps of lye or anything in there. I have occasionally, especially using lye from the hardware store, had little lumps of lye in the bottom. In that case, I go get my wire mesh strainer and I will strain the mix. But I'm usually using the food grade sodium hydroxide flakes. I don't normally get that. And I just set things off to the side. So, turn you around. So it looks like at this point. Gonna set that away. I'll just pulse it, and then I'll stir it like this until we get to what they call trace, which is when it's getting thicker. And I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so you can see it's getting thicker. And when I stir it, okay, it's getting thicker, and when I stir it, it's kind of stands up a little bit. And this takes 2 hands. I'm going to add my fragrance oil now at this point. But I'm going to run the blender while I do it. Depending on the fragrances and essential oils and whatever you're using, you can, sometimes they will like seize up. It's like as soon as you add them and start blending them in, all of a sudden the soap just goes and it's like trying to become a solid rock all of a sudden. And it's just a reaction with whatever's in that fragrance oil. So I usually blend a little bit and then stir, and then we'll blend some more. This oil doesn't do that, but I do have one, I think it's the honeysuckle, that will seize up pretty quick if I use the stick blender too much after I pour it in. And I will do a lot more just hand stirring like this. I'll blend this a little bit more. Mentioned, but before you mix your lime mixture and your fats together, you want them to be within about 10 degrees of each other in temperature. And I can usually just feel my containers and tell if we're both about room temperature. That's about when I usually pour them together to make my soap. There are other ways. I know there's folks that just do them both really hot and stuff. I prefer them to be cooled off. I just feel like it's, I don't know, easier, better. It's just me. So this is getting pretty thick. It's leaving a trace. I'll show you that. So can you see when I pull the stick how it leaves the line? Okay, that's about what I want for pouring. You're gonna see a lot of folks use the silicone loaf pans or maybe some silicone molds. I have opted for these. I think they're PVC or some kind of plastic mold. Because they say goat milk, and I like that. It's like kind of my brand, you know. And what lost my train of thought. Hang on. Okay, I don't remember what I was going to say, but that's okay. I want to scrape down all the soap off my stick blender as much as I can. And then I'm going to pour. And I probably pour Now this is starting to thicken up quite a bit right now since I was talking. That's okay. At this point, you are not quite soap. You are still in the process of becoming soap. And you still have some free lye in here that can burn you. So you do want to be careful. And you'll see that's why I'm wearing my gloves now. So, you'll see this in just a second. It's pretty thick. And, we're going to pour right in there. And then besides these, I do have some other small silicone molds. I buy them when they're on clearance. They're like little candy molds or something. And I'll use those as samples and stuff like that. You'll see that in a minute. I'm just poking this into the corners to make sure the corners of the mold gets full. And when it's about enough, I will go to the next one. I actually like to pour it when it's a little bit thinner than this because it's a little easier to make sure that it is all down in the mold and we aren't getting any big air pockets. But it will all work out in the end. It always does. It always does, one way or another. I just gotta build a bigger workspace someday, so that I don't have to shuffle everything all the time. I'm gonna get this all packed in here. And you'll see some people with goggles and stuff on because they're afraid of a lye splash. And I am kind of too. But the lenses on my glasses, and I do have glass lenses, not plastic, for various reasons. That's a topic for another day. But they protect my eyes pretty good. And I have yet to find a set of goggles or anything that I can really work with, that I can really see through, that really work for me. And I cannot afford to go and buy prescription goggles. So we just are very careful. Also, don't get too excited here with this lye. So, okay, so there is still some down in the pot, and we'll take care of that in a minute. This is just a paint stick that I cut to fit in the top of my molds, okay, to level these backs off. Okay, so I just try and go back and forth, and I'm gonna kind of beat it on the table a little bit, make sure we don't have any air pockets in there. This one is gonna need a little bit more soap. We'll come back to it. I'm gonna beat this one and wiggle it back and forth. Sometimes I pour way too much in the first couple of molds, and then I got a big mess trying to get it moved over to the last mold that didn't have enough. So that one's going to need some more. Let's see this one. This all together is about a 5-pound batch of soap. I think it's like a fraction over 5 pounds. once it's all done. Makes 32 bars plus sometimes some little samples. It's going to need a little bit more. This one is probably close. Okay, don't be sliding around. Yeah. So this one has a little too much in it. So, get my spatula, and I'm gonna like just scoop up a little bit and plop it over in a mold that needs some more. Okay. And that needs pushed, some of it needs pushed down into that corner. And I'll kind of bounce it up and down if I need to. I'm just trying to get it even. And I want the backs of my bars to be as flat as I can make them, so that they're nice. They don't come out super smooth, but it's okay. They are at least flat. Okay. This one still needs a little dab in that corner. Get in there. And that corner. Okay. And then it's got too much. Now, if I could ever get a bigger workspace and more organized, then I could probably set up several soap batches in a day. Like just keep them separated on a long work table and get more done in a day. But I'm working in a really pretty small space. So we're just doing the best we can. Let's do this one next. Oops. Okay. This one needs to get more in its corners. So we'll poke some into the corners, and this side didn't get enough. So we'll poke some down in there. And I'm going to get a little bit more out of the pot, because it just seems like this mold needs a little bit more than it had. Okay. And of course, the longer it sets, the thicker it's getting, and the harder it is to work with. And if I get off the track, then we leave a hole in it. Come on, get in there. Aye, come on. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay. I think I said before, I don't have any indoor pets. I have no small children hanging around regularly. My grandson does come to visit sometimes, but we do not do so while he's here, just because he's only 5. So it would be really hard to not have him be in the middle of everything and trying to help. And so we don't want him to get a live burn or anything. So we've got some holes over here in this one. So we're just gonna fill them up with more soap. It is getting more solid, but if I work it a little bit, it softens up. So and then when I get done, I do not go and wash my pot and stuff immediately. I actually will let it sit overnight, because that way, if there is any lye in any trace or part of the pot, you know, little bits of soap left in there, it will finish saponifying, and then it will not burn my hands when I go to wash the pot, because it will not be free lye anymore. It will be soap. Okay, you've got holes again. So see, if I hadn't been yakking and I had poured this just a little bit sooner, then it would have been a little softer and a little smoother pour. But now it's trying to get thick, and it's almost like, I don't know, thick cake frosting, basically. So it just makes it a little bit harder to work with, to get this even and get the molds all the way filled. There we go. There we go. We're getting there now. Well, okay, we'll go that way then. I tried not to be quite so sloppy there. I'd have to put another pair of gloves on, just because now I have soap all over my one hand. But I think this one is okay. All right. Okay. This guy. Again, some of the corners aren't full, so I'm having to kind of work it and mash it a little bit, get it worked in there. If you are working with one of the silicone loaf molds where you're going to cut the soap later into bars, those are probably a little easier, probably a little faster to work. I've watched people use them, and I just pour it, bang it on the table to get the bubbles out, and then basically that's it. They might use their spatula to make a fancy whirl on the top that becomes the top of the bar. But because I'm using this mold, I'm not doing that. Oh, don't do that. Okay. Come on. Okay. And now we're going to get our little silicone mold. And I'm going to scrape this down in and just kind of smash it in there. These are just little samples. Sometimes I'll package them up and sell them for people who want to try it. Sometimes I just give them away. You know, it's okay. Okay. And now we're going to scrape the pot, and probably be enough to fill this mold. I do try to adjust recipes so that we're as close to exact as possible. But one of the things that will happen is that if my plain soap recipe fills up my 4 molds pretty much exactly, then when I add things to the recipe, then like fragrance oils and stuff, then that does change the final volume. So we just scrape the pot as good as it can, and then I'm just gonna smash it into these little molds. These are little bunny rabbits. I probably paid like 50 cents for this at the dollar store after Easter or something, you know. So I'm just gonna smash it in there and scrape the tops. Okay. That's okay. Get my gloves off. I think I do have a tiny smidge of soap that has come up on my wrist. I can feel a little sting there. The antidote for the lye is vinegar. Lye is an extreme base. It's very alkaline. That's why it's burning. And so we just splash some vinegar on there and then wash it off with water. Okay, so this is what the backs of the molds so looks like right now. We're gonna let this sit here and start to solidify, and then later I will go and put it in the freezer. The reason I put this in the freezer is I have discovered with these PVC molds that if I flex them too much trying to get the soap out, then, and it does kind of try and stick in the middle, that I start cracking the molds. So what I've discovered is that if I stick them in the freezer overnight, I can just pull them out the next day, turn them upside down on my racks, and walk away, because in a little bit the soap will just fall out. So that has worked out really good. On some occasions it needs a little extra coaxing, especially if I got it over full. But usually if they're nice and level and everything, the soap will just fall right out. So that's a good thing. All right, soap's out in the freezer overnight. And now the molds are upside down on my racks, and we just wait for them to warm up a little bit, and they generally just fall right out. if I need to, I can come along and coax them a little bit. Sometimes what will happen is a little excess soap will kind of seal them to the edge. And in that case, I can just kind of scrape that a little bit, and then they'll fall out. All right, the soap is out of the molds. It will sit here on these racks for a couple of weeks, and then I will cut these down the middle. And a lot of times they will still be kind of sticky inside. So if they're still sticky, then we'll just let them sit there for a while, just as 4 bars, and then for another couple weeks, and then I will cut them apart, and then they will go to the drying rack and sit there for the rest of their curing time, which is 6 to 8 weeks after I made it. I just take a little piece of scratch paper and write the fragrance name and the day I made it on that, and it just goes with the soap as it goes through the process and as it gets cured. And then when they're cured, we pull them off the rack and get them packaged and labeled. So I want to thank y'all for hanging out with me today, making soap. It's not super hard. You just want to be a little careful with the lye so you don't get hurt. A lot of folks want to wear, protection, gloves up to their elbows and big goggles and stuff. And some people have issues with the lye fumes. I do not notice a lot of fumes when I am mixing the lye with the milk the way I do it. Occasionally, if I accidentally get a little too much lye into the mix at one time, there will be a little bit of lye fumes, but otherwise I don't notice any. So, but you need to do what you need to do so that you're comfortable and you don't get hurt, and that's okay. I do encourage everybody that wants to make soap to start with a simple recipe, make a little small batch. But there are some great resources on the internet. There is several lye calculators and fragrance oil calculators, how much fragrance oil to use for how many ounces of soap and things like that. And anytime I make a change or an adjustment in the recipe, I always run it back through the lye calculator to make sure that we're balanced. We have the right amount of lye, we have the right amount of liquid with the right amount of fats. And always remember that you need to weigh everything. That way you are most accurate. And most of the soap recipes out there that you're going to see are made by weight. And that seems to be an important thing, because some things are light and fluffy and have a lot of volume but not a lot of weight, and other things are more dense and will not take up as much space. So weighing everything is more accurate than doing it like with a measuring cup. Anyway, y'all have a wonderful week.